Okay, can you say and spell your name for me?
Certainly. Jan Lesher, Lesher, Pima County Administrator.
Okay, thank you. So Megan wanted me to ask you this question. Are you concerned that the money will not come before the original funding runs out? And therefore, is there still a chance we see street releases?
I don't believe we will see street releases next week. I can't speak to what may happen in 5 or 6 months, but in speaking with representatives of our delegation from Arizona, with the White House, with directors at Department of Homeland Security, and particularly in FEMA, which is where from the source of this funding through their grants director. We have been assured that funding will be coming. There's 2 different buckets of money that will come. The budget bill that was passed and signed by the president last week or over the weekend includes $650 million allocated for shelter and the shelter and services program. It's those dollars that are funding the effort here in Pima County to assist with legally processed asylum seekers and to help those individuals translate through Pima County onto their final destination. Of that $650 million, we have been told that those of us who have been in the business and been doing it will get an initial allocation. We don't know exactly when or how much. There will also be dollars available through a notice of funding opportunity. And at that time, we can also submit and compete for dollars. What I have been told by the Department of Homeland Security is that I can count on, and Pima County can count on receiving at least what we received in our last tranche of dollars. That was 12.7 million. So we believe that we can anticipate at least another 12.7 coming in. That assurance and that was enough, I think, to allow us to go ahead and say, let's keep the operation up and going, not shut down next week. As you might imagine, like anything, if we shut the system down completely, it's much more difficult to turn it back on. People have been laid off, contracts have been voided. At this point, we think we can just pass the baton very quickly for new contracts and keep going uninterrupted.
Do you plan on calling some of those people back if they haven't found jobs already?
Yes, we do not hire those individuals directly. We contract with Catholic Community Services, who has been running the shelter, and I know we began to communicate with them this weekend saying, if it looks like we are going to be able to get money, will we be able to ramp back up? And so they believe they can do that. Part of what we're doing is also looking at how we spend every penny. And we're constantly reevaluating how the dollars are spent, how can we do things more efficiently, more effectively, and for perhaps a little less money. We're reviewing all of that again. So some of the staffing patterns may come into play as well. But at this point, our vendors believe that they'll be able to continue to provide service.
Is it still costing you about $1 million a week? Has that increased, or is that number right, correct?
It has been about $1 million a week. The significant factor that probably is what drives that cost the most is simply the number of individuals who are released every day. We had been, Customs Border Patrol has been bringing more than 1,000 individuals a day to be released in Pima County. Over the weekend, that number was closer to 500. If the numbers go way down, then we can do it obviously for a longer period of time. The $1 million a week is what we were beginning to look at when we were hitting consistently 1,200 and 1,300 folks a day, and every day breaking the record that had been set really the day before. So we think at this time, those dollars can continue.
What do you think is contributing to, I mean, you said 500 over the weekend. I don't know if that's normal or not, but is it starting to go down a little bit?
Every day is a little different. We're not seeing a trend yet. It went down over this last weekend, but we need to track, day over day. I think one thing that we're looking at is that this operation began in 2019, Easter weekend. And so we're coming up to Easter weekend again. We do have the normal amount of just border traffic as people come and go during the religious holidays. But we just don't, it's really hard to predict when we're going to see individuals coming and not. It hasn't followed any great path. So we will be tracking and continue to monitor daily the number of individuals and see if we can, our hope is that we begin to see a steady decline the number of individuals coming through, but it has really just been bouncing all over the place.
So would you say right now you have enough money for 12 weeks then? If it's $1 million a week, roughly
Yeah,
12 weeks?
I'm hoping right now to make it to August 1st. I think if we have the dollars are coming in, we can stretch them farther, and the number of individuals being brought to us decreases. I think we're going to get to about August 1. That's a first initial guess, based on some of our experience in past spending patterns, but we'll be looking long and hard at what that date might be.
So they're going to look at doing another package, I imagine, what, September, I believe it is?
I think, yeah, they said the end of summer, so I think that's it. And that's when they do a competitive round. So there are communities in the country that haven't received dollars yet. Los Angeles is a community that springs to mind. I think Los Angeles may be in a situation much like Phoenix is seeing. Phoenix is not a border city, obviously, but the number of individuals being transported to Sky Harbor Airport were coming through the community because there are more transportation opportunities available out of Sky Harbor. There are direct flights, lots and lots of places in the country that may not exist here. And so while we're seeing a lot of people being transported to Phoenix, San Diego has been another very important border for this mission. Those individuals are starting to get into the LA area. That's an example of a community, Los Angeles, that has not been funded previously. And they may be what folks are looking at as we look at the new round of competitive funding. We hope we'll be eligible for that as well.
So do you sometimes, because of the more flights you have in Phoenix, you send folks to Phoenix to go to the airport and they fly out of there?
Yes, we can bus people to Phoenix. The average stay in Pima County is 72 hours. People who come into our community are transitioning on. About 1% of all of the folks who come through actually have family here or stay in the Pima County area in Southern Arizona. They're going on someplace else, all around the country. And so frequently it's easier to access those points out of the larger airport.
You said the average stay is 72 hours. That means
Right.
You're getting that many people.
That many people, since April of 2019, we are over 400,000 individuals. And Michael, what you're hitting on is important. It's not as if with the average of 72 hours, people don't come in one day. So let's say 1,000 people are in and they're all released the next morning for the next 1,000 to come in. Doesn't work that way. You know, the 1,000 come in, 800 might be able to get out and move on to the next destination, but a couple hundred may be waiting for their flight or for different information for the family to come together to be able to be transported. So those stay while we get the next 1,000 the next day. So you can see the numbers get large very quickly. Yep. And of course, the concern, and I think one of the reasons we have been so concerned about the receipt of these dollars is not just the humanitarian effort to move people on to the destination, but for the health and well-being of the people of Pima County. The plan, if we didn't have a Casaritas up and running, Border Patrol would be releasing individuals at the bus station and a Greyhound bus station. So you can imagine 1,000 people released on the streets every day in Tucson can be a very difficult situation, not only for those individuals, but for our community as well. And less than 40% of the individuals who come in are from Mexico. The majority come from all over the world. Many of them come from countries that don't have the kind of immunization programs that we've got in the United States. So we're also doing some of those health checks. You know, what can we do as we help people before they move on? And sometimes that is what's causing that 72-hour delay.
So if they are coming in, some of them coming in with health issues, I presume then, I mean, are people kind of masked up when they meet them? Are you guys taking safety precautions, I imagine?
There's a lot of safety precautions. If you remember during the pandemic, Title 42 was a public health issue that really closed the border, if you will, for a while. We had very, very few individuals crossing the border at that time because the border was shut down in response to the pandemic. When it reopened, we do have people coming in. We do have, health screening, health testing, which is another thing I want to remind people of around the country. I think we are able to do this because we are provided with federal dollars. So I always point out, it would not be accurate to say that no local tax dollars are being used. No local tax dollars that support Pima County are being used. But obviously we have individuals in the community who pay federal taxes. So those federal taxes do support this federal program, but we're also receiving tax dollars from people in Kansas and Vermont and around the country that support this program. And I think they're getting a real benefit in that when you think about 1,000 people a day coming into Pima County and going on through the communities or the rest of the country, we're providing that health screening. If somebody has measles or back in the day COVID, we don't put them on a plane.
Do most of these people, from what you know, have places to go? Do you have some people that don't have a place to go and you got to figure that out?
The vast majority have a place to go. We have provided transportation to less than 3% of the 400,000 plus who have come in. And frequently the transportation we have to provide is if there's a family of 4, as an example. Sometimes there's not been an expectation that they would need a plane ticket for all 4 if one is a smaller child. So we are providing some of that transportation. But people are coming in as legally processed asylum seekers, part of which means they have a place to go. And Michael, I think that's an important point for people that there have been suggestions in the past that Pima County is helping with illegal immigration, illegal folks coming into the United States or human trafficking. We don't make the determination as to who's here safely or legally or not. That's made by Border Patrol. That's made by the Department of Homeland Security. If someone's not here legally, they are dealt with very differently. Once Border Patrol establishes that that individual is here legally and has a right to be processed and moved towards a final destination, that's when the individuals are brought to the facility that for which we're the fiscal agent.
2 last questions, I'll let you go. I'm sorry, the conversation is interesting. That's why I keep asking.
Okay, no, that's fine.
So we know come August 1st, you might be able to get some supplemental funding after August 1st, my understanding is correct. Yes. So I guess my question is this. We're going to be right close to the presidential election, November 4th, when they meet again. You know they're going to squabble, and that squabble is going to get way worse than what it is now. Are you beginning, or are you going to say, okay, we got the money now, we're good, but we have to think of a plan of what to do in case they can't agree, because it's possible they may pass the buck until the new Congress comes in. I'm not saying it will happen, but it could happen.
You are what you have described, Michael, is one of the things that keeps me up at night. That, as you know, and we've been reminding the community, our current plan was that there would be street releases April 1st. And that the federal dollars would end and we would not be able to continue to support the program. What we've really done at this point is simply move the end zone down a little bit farther. You know, that what we're saying now is we may have another 90, 120 days, but the money will then end and we will have street release at that point. Unless there's comprehensive immigration reform, which I don't see happening in the next 90 to 120 days. So you're right, that's just part of what I look at is what can happen. Imagine now, it's one thing to release individuals at a bus station right now. When it gets into June and July and August and into the hotter months, and not only is the temperature hot, people's tempers is shorter. We have a difficult situation right leading up to the presidential election, which will have its own set of challenges. So it's going to be a long 2024.
Okay. All right. My final question is this. I know you work with these Catholic charities and things like that. How are they holding up? Because this got to be taxing dealing with this all the time, and they're still there doing the job.
You're so right. Catholic Community Services, those staff people, and the many, many, many volunteers who help every day, who help with the transportation, who help with meals, who help greeting the people who are coming into the facility. While I comment that Pima County has been doing this since April of 2019, Catholic Community Services started in 2014. So they've been doing this now for a decade. So they're pretty darn good at it. But if you remember, it started out when in very small facilities, then they had the Benedictine Monastery on Country Club for a while. And it's when that started to expand that we moved into the event center, or then what was the Ajo facility initially. A good news story, if you will, we were able to repurpose about half the juvenile detention facility because it was built to house many more youths than are now in our detention facility. So that's the good news. And we were able to use it initially for the asylum seekers. We now have that facility and another warehouse location, and then occasionally some additional hotels that are used, all paid for by the federal government.
Is there anything I missed?
I think you got it all.
Okay, all right.